We're going to be looking at the nature and purpose of stewardship. This is book 3 that we'll be using, of religious education for Jamaica. So it is the 3rd form level, the nature and the purpose of stewardship. And so in this first topic and first unit, we are going to be looking at a few things. Yes. We're going to be looking at the objectives. First of all, our objectives are 1, the nature and the scope of personal stewardship, the nature and scope of corporate stewardship, the personal stewardship in the wider community, the practice of stewardship in other religions, people who have been good stewards. We are going to use those as example in stewardship. So we're going to be looking at the people who have been good stewards. So those are the objectives. Before we move on with the lesson, we're going to be looking at a definition, short but maybe comprehensive and a profound definition of the word stewardship. Stewardship comes from the Greek oikonomia. Oikonomia. Oikonomia meaning administration. And if you listen to that word, I would want to ask, how does that word sound to you? How does it sound? It sounds like economy or an economist. That's how it sounds, like an economist. So it is actually from the Greek. A steward, or stewardship, therefore, is a responsibility for managing another person's resources. So it doesn't have to be your resources. The resources belong to another person, but you manage those resources on behalf of that person. Or put another way, on behalf of a company. Yes, I could give an illustration with regards to that. So you're a manager of those resources. Now here's an illustration, as promised. Let us say right here in the middle, we have the headquarters of LCB Bank, and Mr. Lee Chen himself is the CEO, the Chief Executive Officer. Now, as the CEO or the Chief Executive Officer, he could remain at headquarters, but he has branches all over the island. For example, let us say he has a branch in Manchester, a branch in St. Elizabeth, he has a branch in Montego Bay, he has a branch in Maypen, and you name it. A branch all over the island. Now, these persons who manage these branches, they are known as managers. So that's the other word for stewardship. The word manager could be used as a substitute or used interchangeably. Okay. Yes. A steward then is a person who manages. So if I have a company, I am the CEO, and I am not there, but I hire you as the manager. Now you, depending on the agreement or on the arrangement of the company, you will have the power now to hire and to fire, to purchase on behalf of the company, to administer the affairs of the company. So the success or failure of the company will depend a lot on the manager. And so the idea of stewardship is very, very important. It sounds very religious, but it's not just religious. It is in every sphere of life. It is from the word steward that we get stewardship. So let us look at steward. The definition of steward. A steward is responsible for managing his or another person's resources. Yes. So if you're a steward, you're a manager. A steward can be a trustee. A steward can be trusted and needs to have the following qualities. Right. So you can't just be a steward. You have to be qualified to be a steward. Your qualities as a stewardship should be honesty, integrity, faithfulness, loyalty, commitment. Those are the qualities of a steward. Do you possess those qualities? Teachers are not stewards only. Students are also stewards. Politicians are stewards. Once you have something that you need to manage, you're a steward. Yeah. Let us look at stewardship and religion. The world's major religions teach that as stewards, humans have the following responsibilities. What are those responsibilities? Let us name them. To use all the talents they have been given for the benefit of everyone and to serve the Supreme Being. All right. So, God gives every one of us a talent. What is yours? It sounds very religious, but it is both religious and economic. Because the talent that a person was born with, that is the talent that is going to allow you to work money. Or it's going to allow you to get a job and hold it down. Serve your country, serve the society, serve your neighbor, and provide for yourself and for your family. So, the question to ask the manager, you have been given the talents, you have been given the gifts from the Lord. Are you using those talents and gifts for the benefit of not only yourself, but for everyone? Are you serving your country well? So let's look at number 2. The act to act with integrity and social justice, which is treating all people with fairness and openness. Look, let's look at it again. To act with integrity and social justice, which is treating all people with fairness and openness. So it's not just to be a steward or a manager. It's what kind of manager you are, or what kind of steward you are. Do you act with integrity? Do you act with social justice? Do you treat everyone on the same level? Or do you show preferential treatment? If you show preferential treatment, you may not be a good manager. So we look at number 3. To treat one another with mutual respect as human beings and recognize the rights of others. So yes, let's talk about the workplace. You go into the workplace, just as how the manager has a right, those who work with the manager or work under the manager, they have rights as well. The employers have rights. The employees have rights. Right. So this is what stewardship is about. It's not just about the orga. It is not just about the boss. Yes, the boss plays an important role in pushing the business forward, but at the same time, the boss is going to need workers to help him push the business forward. Yes. So let us look at some words that are associated with stewardship. In other words, we cannot talk about stewardship unless we come in contact with these words and remember them. First one, steward. That is the person or the manager. And then stewardship, that is what the steward will be administering or executing. Good stewardship. Property, honesty, integrity, faithfulness, loyalty, depend, mutual respect, cooperate, responsibility, relationship, command, talent. So these are the words that are associated with the idea of stewardship. Other words are ethics, efficiency, obligation. For example, as a steward, you have certain obligations that you have to fulfill. In the same way, you have some duties that you will have to fulfill. Citizenship, opportunity, selfhood, protection, resources, consequences, accountability, self-respect, self-esteem, independence, wisdom. So the steward must be aware of all of these words, because these words are going to come under the auspices of his stewardship. And those are the very things that will bring his degree of stewardship into sharp focus. Okay, let us now turn our attention to different types of stewardship. Stewardship is how one manages his abilities, his resources, and relationships. So, two types of stewardship: personal and corporate. We really have to make a note of those two types: personal and corporate. Personal stewardship has to do with the individual, while corporate stewardship is working together. But in any event, we are accountable as steward on any level. So those are the different types of stewardship. Let us narrow it down now to personal stewardship. Looking at it, personal stewardship is the way people look after their own human resources. These include managing talents, skills, and relationships. Yes, so you have been given a talent and you have been given a skill. How well do you handle that? How well do you manage that? Religious people believe that God has given every person talents and gifts, and that people must respond to Him by using their talents for His purpose. Yes, believe it or not, when you serve your country, you serve people. When you serve your neighbor, you serve people. By serving your country, you serve God. So if you serve your country as the Prime Minister, you are using your talent for Him. If you serve your country as the Minister of Finance, you're using your talent for Him. If you serve your country by serving people, being a domestic engineer, where it is needed, you are providing a service. And so, stewardship is about service delivery and how well that service is being delivered. In Matthew 25, Jesus told the story of servants who had received talents from their master. Everyone traded on his talent except one. If you came across the story, it talks about that manager or the boss who was going away and called all of his servants. To one he gave 2 talents, to another he gave 5, and to another he gave 1. And he told them, he said, work on this until I return. And if you did not come across the story will be told to you right now in a short video. Watch carefully.
Once there was a wealthy man preparing to leave on a long journey. He gathered his servants together and gave careful instructions on what to do while he was away. "I will be leaving you shortly and may not return for quite some time," he explained to them. "I am putting you in charge of my wealth so that my estate will continue to prosper even while I am away." So the master divided his wealth among his servants based on each one's ability to manage it. The first servant was given 5 talents. Each talent was equal to thousands of dollars. This servant took the sum of money given to him, and he immediately went to work, using what he was given to make more money. He knew this would please the master. His efforts produced 5 more talents. The second servant was given 2 talents. Not as much as was given the first servant, but still a great deal of money. This servant took what was given to him and, like the first servant, dutifully invested it to make more money. He too knew this would please the master. His efforts produced 2 more talents. The third servant was given 1 talent, less than the other servants, but still a good amount of money. This servant failed to see the value in the opportunity that the master had given him, and fearing any risk to it, promptly went out and dug a hole and buried it in the ground. Many days, weeks, and months passed, and finally the master returned. Eager to find out the condition of his property and wealth, he called his servants together to hear what they had done with what he had given them to manage. Each servant approached the master to give their report. The first 2 servants proudly showed their master that they had doubled what he had given them. The master smiled. "Well done, my good and faithful servants. You have been faithful with a few things. I will now put you in charge of many things." He added, "Come and let us celebrate." Then the last servant, who had been trusted with 1 talent, approached the master and accused him, saying, "You are a hard man to please, so in fear of you, I buried the money you gave me into the ground. Here is the 1 talent that belongs to you." The master was furious. "You wicked and lazy servant," he said. "I gave you an amount of property I knew you would be able to manage, but you did nothing with it. At least you could have put it in the bank to earn a small amount of interest. Now, you will lose your talent to the servant who gained 5. With that, the master took the only talent the servant had and cast him out of his household forever.
Well, as was normally said, if you don't use it, you will lose it. So God has given talents, and those talents and skills must be used, must not be buried, must be used for the benefit of all people, including yourself. Managing relationship is our next subtopic. We need good interpersonal skills in order to manage relationships. We can learn these skills if we were not born with them. Some persons were born, I guess, with interpersonal skills. Others not so good at interpersonal, skills. Interpersonal skills refer to how you deal with people, how you deal with co-workers, how you deal with colleagues on a day-to-day basis. That's what it is all about. Now, in terms of personal stewardship, employment is a part of personal stewardship. It helps people to use their talents, to use their skills to provide for themselves and their family. So, where does that leave us? If you're a nurse, that's a talent or that's a skill. Use it to provide for yourself and for your family, and use it also to serve your country. Yes. Next subtopic, leadership. Young people become leaders beginning in the home. You can't be lazy in the home. In the home, in most homes, young people have chores that they do. Yes, young people are given these chores by their parents. Good leadership is following Christ's example, serving others. So a good steward, remember we said a steward is a person who manages another person's resources. Yes, a good steward or a good manager serves selflessly. A good manager is a person who does not only look at his welfare or his own interest, but after the interests of his boss or the one over him, the interest of his supervisor, the interest of his company, the interest of others. That is what he has at heart, the interest of others. And that is the quality of a very good manager. Taxes and donations is our next subtopic. Business, companies, individuals pay their taxes. Taxation is essential to society. It pays for services that benefit everyone. Also, voluntary donations. So then, you don't have to be the boss of NCB to be a good steward. You can be a good steward by being a faithful person in terms of paying your companies or your taxes, paying up your individual taxes, because this is actually essential and provides for an integral part of the running of the economy of your country, due to the fact that it pays for services that benefit everyone. If you give voluntarily, if you give donations to non-profitable organization, for example, the Golden Age homes, orphanage homes, boys' homes, just places like those, then you are seen as a good steward, because you are helping the society with your talents, with your gift, or whatever the Lord has blessed you with, or what God has blessed you with, put in that way. A new subtopic. You see, stewardship, I must explain that we are looking at. The general topic is stewardship. The general topic is stewardship. But we are going to be looking at a roll call of things in relation to stewardship. And then you will understand now that stewardship is in every facet of life and in every facet of society. So certain things that you're not looking at as stewardship are indeed stewardship. For example, maintaining law and order. That is stewardship. Because law and order are essential if people are going to live peacefully together. However, this is the responsibility of everyone of faith. So then, stewardship is not just about going to church. Yes, you can go to church, whether on Sunday or on the Sabbath. But the big question is, what are you doing for your society? What kind of service do you provide for your society or for your country or your neighbor on a daily basis? If you help to maintain law and order, then you are providing a good service. Do you care for the natural environment? That is stewardship. The actions of industries and companies can affect everyone. So we need to consider the following things, which are 4. 1. In caring for the natural environment, large-scale industries such as oil and coal can affect the air that people breathe. I'm not going to call the name of any company, but look around, and we can see, or we will see if we look, companies that emit toxic waste Is this good stewardship? Is this good for the environment? Is this good for the country? Is good for people? Not that we don't need these companies, but we have to find a way in which we can do these things without harming people, without putting the lives of people or the health of our people at risk. 2, how companies treat and dispose of raw sewage affects cleanliness and the seas around the coast and the health of people in all communities. So when you have the waste, what do you do with them? Do you throw them in the sea? Guess what? If you throw the chemicals or the bottles that you dispose of the chemicals and you throw the bottles or the containers into the sea, the chemicals, they are still in them. What is going to happen is that they will destroy all sea life. Right? They will destroy the natural environment. They destroy the coral reefs. They destroy the fish in the sea. And that is going to now affect not only the economy, but will affect the very provision in the house in terms of food to eat. Number 3, industrial processes have dumped waste products in seas, streams and rivers, leading to pollution of water. Also valuable land. Number 4, the worldwide destruction of rainforests is driven by logging companies and developers who are not considering the consequences of their actions. Animals and plants die. So we think we just dispose of these things and it stopped there. But when we look back at it, we realize that it is our actions that destroy the animals and destroy our plants. You know, we have persons, the only time their hands touch the ground is if they fall down. But we are proud of the people who care for the natural environment. We must care for the natural environment. If we are good stewards, we will reap the benefit of it. If we are bad stewards, there are consequences to face for our actions as well. In fact, let us look at the consequences of good stewardship. As good stewards, what is going to happen is that we'll experience respect for oneself, respect for one another, respect for property, and respect for life. And that last one there is a very, very important one. Respect for life. And that is going to be one of the underlining themes of stewardship. Do you respect life? To what extent do you respect life? Later on, we're going to look at the issue of abortion, capital punishment, all of these very important issues that have to do with this very sacred thing that we call life. Because at the end of the day, this is all about life. At the end of the day, why we go to school is to carry on life. Right? So this is what religious education is about, life. Right? How do we maintain and sustain life that has been given to us by our Creator. All right. All right. In continuing, uh, the consequences of poor stewardship, not controlling negative emotions. Right? If you fight and fuss easily, you're not seen as a good steward. Um, Violent behavior, destruction in terms of destruction of property, for example, committing murder. These things are the consequences of bad stewardship. So bad stewardship can be seen just as being good stewards, and it can be seen. Well, stewardship in Christianity. The stewardship of money and time, caring for the natural environment, caring for the body. Right? There is something called ecology. How do we care for the natural environment? That's a great and an integral part of stewardship. Stewardship is about responsibility, service delivery, and responsibility. Make a note of this statement that wherever there is responsibility, there is accountability. In other words, just like we watched that video of how the boss returned after a while and reckoned with his servants and asked them what they have done with the money that he gave them. One man was discovered to have buried his talent or buried his money. Talent in the Bible means money. Right? So if a person gives you something that you are responsible for, he's going to come and ask you for a report later on. So later on when you report to him, that is the accountability. So there is no responsibility without accountability. As a student, what are you responsible for? I am here doing this lecture or these lecture series. They are not just going to go up in the air, or they are not just expected to fall on deaf ears. After this, there is going to be a test. How well did you grasp what was said? How well did you understand the content of what was said? Did you rehearse the material? All right? How well did you grapple with the material so that you can regurgitate, not only regurgitate, but to interpret the material and to apply that material so you can get a passing grade. So that would be your responsibility when you are accountable for your responsibility. So it depends on your action now, whether you're going to just take this line down or you're going to be faithful to stewardship. Yes. Let us look at Judaism and stewardship. People are guardians of God's creation. That's what the Jews believe. The Torah is seen as the Old Testament. And as far back as Genesis, it says that God gave Adam and Eve the power to administer the affairs of the earth. Genesis 1, verses 26 to 30. In verse 26 of Genesis, God said, "Come, let us make man, and let them have dominion over the fish of the sea, the birds of the air, the beasts of the field." And so he made man and gave them dominion over the birds of the air, the fish of the sea, the beasts of the field. So man has dominion. And when Genesis talks about man, It doesn't mean a male. It means human beings. So human beings have a responsibility to be guardians of God's creation. And that is trickled down into Judaism, into Christianity, because Judaism is really the mother of Christianity. The Jews give God the seventh day as his time. So they are stewards in worship, and they are stewards of his creation. Yes. How about Islam and stewardship? As I said before, we are looking at stewardship very broadly. Stewardship is a general topic, but we are looking at the different religions on stewardship, the different issues on stewardship that we would come across. Islam. Each human on earth is a caliph. And what's that? The creation of heaven and earth was a greater matter than the creation of human. And that is from Surah 40 and verse 58. And I must just pause for a cause here to say what we mean by surah is chapter. For the Muslims, their holy book is the Quran. Just like how Christians read the Bible, Muslims read the Quran. Right? And the Quran carries 114 surahs. Surahs are like chapters. Starts at the largest and goes down to the smallest. So right here, Surah 40 and verse 57 talks about the creation of heaven and earth. And it says that it was greater, or it was a greater matter than the creation of humans. Well, Christianity differs with that, I can tell you, because in Christianity, humans or human beings are the crown of God's creation. In other words, of all the things that God created, right? Human beings are the cream of the crop of that creation. The highest form of what God made would be human beings. And that is why he says, okay, human beings in Christianity, talking about now, human beings would take care of the sea, the land, the air, because they are the crown of God's creation. Yes. That is why he said, come, let us make man and give them. But that is in Christianity. Islam sees it in a different way. Surah 28 and verse 77 says, use your wealth to do good. So, in Islam, a good steward would use his wealth to do good. For extreme Muslims or for Islamic extremists, that may mean using their wealth to contribute to war or to a jihad. But they see this, as being faithful to a cause or being a good steward of what Allah has put them in charge of. Right? So they believe in donations, and Jews believe in donations as well. In fact, all of the major religions carry the idea of giving donation. Let us look at Hinduism. What Hinduism says is that the human race and nature are separate. The human race and nature are not is the operative word there. They are not separate. They must be seen as a single unit. The soul cannot die and will not and will receive mulcha. All right, let me say that again. The soul cannot die and will receive moksha. Moksha is a Hindu word that means release. So no matter what the soul goes through, it will one day be released from this world with life and care. Humans will reap karma. Have you ever heard that term where somebody says, your karma is coming? Yes. The karma comes from the Muslims' belief and practice. And that is not strange to Christianity either. Christianity does not use the word karma in the Bible, but it says, be not deceived. God is not mocked. Whatsoever a man sows, that shall he also reap. So if you do good, then it's going to come back to you. If you do evil, then evil is going to come back to you. So it's your karma. Right? Though the Hindus believe in a karma. Whatever you sow, yes, that is what you're going to reap. All right? And they do not separate the soul yes, from the other things. They say the soul cannot die. The soul will receive moksha. And I say that to say that in a sense, this ties in with their belief of reincarnation. Meaning, when a Hindu dies, he believes he's going to come back, not as a human being anymore, but as something else. So, what we call a green lizard, for example, that most Jamaican Christians would be afraid of. The Hindus are not going to be afraid of it. They are going to see it as a human that comes back as a lizard. Right? That is how they're going to see it. A living being that comes back as something else. So they don't harm things. If they see a lizard, they don't harm it. If they see an iguana, they don't harm it. They don't harm animals because they believe in this cycle of reincarnation. Right? So depending on what you do in this life as a steward, you will come or that insect. So if you stole from a priest, for example, in the next life you may come back as a dog. Yeah. Or as a snake. So what you come back as depending on what you do as a human being in this life. Right? Yes. Strive to live without causing harm to others. Every living creature has a soul. So how you see Jamaicans ill-treat dogs, hit dogs on the street with their vehicles. No, the Hindus don't do that. Every soul is respected. Matter of fact, you will never get a Hindu eat beef patties because they are not going to kill the cows. As far as they are concerned, the cows is Mother Earth. They respect all life. So you will find that they are good vegetarians. Let us look at the subtopic of good stewards. Who do we refer to as good stewards? Let's start with Hinduism. A good steward was Mahatma Gandhi. And his time was from 1865 to 1948. He led the Indian independence movement He protested the unfair treatment of Indian settlers in South Africa. In his time, the Archbishop Desmond Tutu was another good steward. He fought against apartheid. The apartheid system, I must explain, was the system of segregation. They had that in South Africa, where you had the black townships. Most of the places in South Africa were the black townships. But then they have the white development towns, where the whites live here and the blacks could not go over there. They call that the apartheid system. Right? They had that in America in the early 50s, early 60s coming up. But the Americans have abandoned the apartheid system, or what they call segregation. Certain bathrooms, you can't go in there and use it in public places. You have to look at the signs before you go in there. You would see where it says, whites only. Yes. Whites. So from the moment you see whites only, you know that as a black person, if you go in there, you could be arrested. It's against the law for you to use it as a black person. One of the big riots, or one of the big problems, one of the big issues we had in America back in the days was when a lady called Rosa Parks went on a bus and she refused to get up and allow a white lady to sit down. And that sparked a lot of protest and controversy. But they were actually living in a community of segregation. Right? So this was what they had in South Africa. And Bishop Desmond Tutu, as a churchman, did a great job to fight against such a system as the apartheid system. Nelson Mandela is another good steward. Spent almost 3 decades in prison in fighting for black freedom. Actually 27 long years in prison. Right, Nelson Mandela. He died the other day, but he goes down in history as a good steward. I'll tell you something about Mandela. When he came out and he was talking to the crowd, they put one of those mics, they just push one of those mics in front of him. Those mics that they are long and furry, like an animal. Right? And when they put that mic in front of him, that one that they hold up in the air to, act movies and do interviews, when they push that mic in front of Nelson Mandela, he jumps and backed away. Why did he do that? Because, he spent 27 years in prison and he has never seen one of those mics. So it was very strange to him. He thought it was a bomb or something they were going to unleash on him up there. So he jumped backed away. So these guys suffered, if you will, for the cause of freedom. And so they are seen as good stewards. Right. So right there in the clerical shirt, or the shirt with the collar, we have Desmond Tutu, and we have also Nelson Mandela. Right? Met and talk to each other as South Africans and good friends. Right? When you leave this world, will you leave your name on record as a good steward? Will you go down in history as a good steward? Well, for the Muslims, Muhammad Yunus was a good steward. He gave his own money as small loans to people who could not help themselves in Bangladesh. Bangladesh was overtaken by disaster. All right. And because of this good deed, it resulted in a loan bank. Because he practiced that and had that right now, as we speak, came out of that was a loan bank, a bank designed to give people loan for small businesses and to help them out of their situation and to put their businesses forward. Right. For Christianity, back here we have Father Richard Holong. Father Holong and the missionaries. They feed the hungry, house the homeless, look after street children, assist people with disease, for example, AIDS. So if you had AIDS, people scorn you, society turns its back on you. Father Holong and the missionaries would show love, would show affection, and offer help. Right? So these guys are remembered, for their good deeds. And it's nice to know that behind Father Holong, we would have, young missionaries coming up, to take, his footsteps. All right. You wonder how Father Holong would get this done in terms of providing housing for poor people and so on. But what he does, he uses his ministry, which is a musical ministry, and his talent to bring joy in worship and share the Christian message. He writes songs and produces musical dramas for the stage. So sometimes people go to these plays like pantomime. They are actually put on by the Father Holong Ministry. Yes. So that's how Father Holong became a good steward of in Christianity. Well, a very famous quote by Father Holong is what we're going to finish with at this time. I'm going to put it up on the screen. Yes. And this quote says, "Although the work is hard, working with HIV persons, crippled, the blind and the mute, we try to help the poorest of people because we want to honor the Lord. I will not give up, and I want people to see that you cannot tackle crime and poverty by running. You cannot tackle crime and poverty by running. The only way to do this is with friendship like Jesus did. I can do it no other way." Yes, that was from Father Holong. So that is what he did. He made friends with people. That is what you call the ministry of reconciliation. Okay? Go out there and, meet people where they are. Offer some help to them. Yes, this man looks untidy. I mean, you call him a madman on the street, but the reality of it is that that man is the image of God. No matter how he looks, no matter how he smells, no matter how he sounds, he is the image of God. And if the politicians are good stewards, they would make sure that provisions are made for these people who we call street people, and they are taken off the street and cared for until they reach a point where they are back on their feet, in their right minds, and can help themselves and be of help to the society. Well, don't worry about this lecture. It will be posted on the major social media platforms that you use or that you can have accessibility. And so any questions you may have, you can put those questions in the chat or on the stream of the Google Classroom. But until next time, be a good steward in your small corner. If you cannot do great things, then do great things do small things in a great way. Yes, if you cannot do great things, you do small things in a great way. But as a steward, be a good steward. Bye.